My name is Andy Gorstein. I am 50 years old and I have a company called The Blind Spot, and we sell blind shades and shutters.
My name's Gavin Jones. Um, right now I'm 22. I am working at a bar in New Brunswick.
My name is Dee. I'm 46 years old. I'm a graphic designer, production manager. I'm divorced, and I'm in a long-term relationship for 8 years.
Hey, I'm Q Smith. I can't remember being born, but I'm sure I'm 40 something years old. I'm from Paterson, New Jersey, born and raised, and I'm the owner and founder of Peace Denim Company, Japan, Peace Denim Company, and the founder of Proper Villains Artist Collective.
I had no idea what I wanted to do in high school. I was an average student, maybe even below average. I had a C average probably. I got an occasional B, got a few D's, a bunch of them actually. Um, in a class of almost 400, I was I wasn't I wasn't anywhere near the top at all, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. My father didn't even give me an invitation to come into his business. However, I worked with him on the weekends to make some extra money, play a little sports, a little tennis. I was involved with exercise and weightlifting, and that kind of took me through because I was the shortest kid in school. I must have been about 5'4", 5'5" maybe. So I kind of that helped me, feel a little bit better about myself. I was very active, had a bunch of friends. We did stuff all over the place. I was the oldest in my class because I got held back in third grade because we lived in the Bronx, and when we moved to New Jersey, something with the deadlines, I can make that excuse until the cows come home, but I think I was a little behind. So they asked me to redo third grade. So I did third grade in New York, and I did third grade in New Jersey when we moved here. So I was the oldest in my class, which was an advantage because when I finally got into high school, I think I was driving my junior year, maybe even the summer before my junior year, and it was great because I had accumulated a lot of friends that really looked up to me, and I felt like I was their big brother and I was the leader, and it's great to be it's great to be that way.
I didn't know what I wanted to be. I just knew that everybody else was going to college, and I thought that's the thing I should do. I went to a college that had liberal art programs so that I could figure out what I wanted to do. I was a good student. I had good grades, but I didn't test well on the SATs, which is what people need to do to get into college. And I had a hard time getting into a lot of colleges, but because I played sports, I was a really good athlete. Trenton State College helped me get into college because I joined their softball team. It was a Division III championship softball team, but I had like about 4 All-Americans ahead of me. I was a pitcher, so I spent a lot of time on the bench cheering. So I did that for 2 years, and then I decided to move on to intramural soccer because they had an intramural soccer program, and then I played soccer for 1 more year, and then I decided I need to try to get out of college because I'd been there for 4 years, so I was on a 5-year plan because of the sports. When I was younger, I was more consumed by worrying about finding somebody to get married and have kids. Like that was my goal. I wasn't thinking about my career or what I should be. I didn't have any special interests except I did take some art classes and I was better than the average person, but I never thought of it as a career. So like I said, when most people were taking maybe pre-college classes and thinking about where they wanted to go to school, I just figured I needed to go to school. I went to, I think everybody had to take a liberal arts like kind of class, like classes. So I took an art class. You had to take a computer science class. So I took an art class, and there was this professor. His name was Wendell Brooks, and he was a famous lithographer, and he taught lithography. And he came over to me one day, and he looked at what I had done, just like a free-form design layout, and he's like, he was from Alabama, and he said, "Wow, Miss Finamore, that's an interesting composition you have there. He's like, have you ever thought about as art as a career? And I hadn't thought about that. And I asked him, well, what kind of career could I have? And he said, well, you could take interior design or you could take graphic design. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I took graphic design first. Took a semester of it. I passed barely. I couldn't draw in perspective, and I'm not very good at decorating like a room or picking out clothes. So I knew I wasn't going to really do too well with decorating people's houses once I got into it, because that's not something that I excel at doing. So then I went over to the graphic design side, and I liked it a lot more, but I also was afraid of it because I always felt, well, I'm not really good at drawing. How am I going to do this? I didn't want the responsibility of being a quote-unquote art director or creative director. So it was a little bit scary. I did like it, but I didn't love it the way I love my career now.
When I went to school the first year, I tested into honors classes, and as I was going through them, the effort wasn't there because I put in enough effort for the tests and then didn't want to do it all the time. And I was trying to do sports and other things at the same time, and just didn't feel like it. And the pressure from my mom, sophomore year, she said you have to get a 3.0 or you can't continue going to the school because it costed a lot of money. And basically, at that point, I held back the fact that I wanted to go to the private school in the first place. So I just kind of thought, well, if that's what I have to do, then screw it. And I just let myself fail, and I didn't try at all. And then obviously my junior and senior year, I went to a public school and barely graduated, slept through most of my classes, and didn't really put much effort into anything at all. I had a couple teachers that were supportive, and really the only reason I did graduate. And it was tough. It was a time that I didn't think mattered. It was a moment where, you don't see the connection. You see the connection. I knew in my heart that school would help me move forwards. But that was around the time where I started smoking weed and started to think that it was all just part of some system that I didn't really need to be a part of. And I was taking big ideas that might be true in some aspects and just following them blindly because I didn't want to do my homework. And I didn't want to try in school or be sober for class or any of that. So obviously when your option is to get high and hang out or, work hard and you don't see the connection, or you don't see a strong connection and you're not being rewarded monetarily for your effort at the time, I just lost track and I started to not try. And I think junior and sophomore year at public school, while I was going through all of that, is really where my mom stopped pushing me because she saw that I wasn't reacting well to it and let me kind of handle myself. And I had never been, I had never been the greatest of all time, but I hadn't really caused any real issues for anybody, or of any like major consequence. So basically, she let me do what I wanted and expected me to be responsible, and I really wasn't, and I started to kind of slack off and really do not much of anything. And now, years later, after attending community colleges and attending Rutgers University and really going through what I assumed once I experienced the real world of working very hard all the time and not being able to afford food or gas or an oil change, or obviously you pay your rent, but there have been times where all I ate was the stuff off the grill at 7-Eleven because they threw it out at 3 a.m. And like, for me, and I think for a lot of people, that's what it takes to realize that the world isn't like a playground, and this is literally a game of survival with a lot of people playing, and you have to work hard in order to do well, and it's not just go to class high and hang out and hope for the best kind of situation. So years later, like I was saying, you go to school and think that you're following the right path, and along the way I found that it wasn't going to work for me, and it just wasn't my thing. And I ended up finding other options that are, there are plenty of other routes to go other than the conformity of a 4-year college. There, still schooling opportunities that you can pay so much less for and only learn the information that applies to your job, and in a lot of different like IT fields and stuff like that.
When you grew up how I grew up, in that situation, and so much negative things around you, if you could find your way to navigate out of that, because the easiest way to navigate out of it, my situation was to go sell drugs. That was never going to happen. My opinion is, many people's opinion, but I believe this in my heart and my soul, that's murder. And I'm not a murderer. I'm a spiritual person. I'm not a religious zealot, but I'm a very spiritual person. And that's murder. And I'm telling you it's murder from my experiences in life, the people that have died in my family from drugs, the friends I've seen addicted to drugs and what it turned them into. And I've seen every aspect of it. And my determination, being here for so long and being around these things for so long, is it's murder. And I'm no murderer. There's something else after this, and I don't want to have to carry my weight in the ill things I did here and the vile things I may have done here into that part of my being, which is at the end of the physical. And that just never appealed to me. It never appealed to me to go sell drugs or steal off someone's plate or stick someone up. It just, maybe because I did have addicts in my household and I saw how I saw things, and I still see things from the child of an addict's point of view. You know what I mean? That's how I see things. In regard to the drug trade and violent crime, and, I see things from the victim. I don't see things from, the drug dealer or the supplier or this one. I see things from the child of a victim. I understand the other aspects because I've studied all the other aspects. But I see things from when I was a little kid and I come in the house and there's crack burns all over the placemats at the kitchen table that weren't there this morning. I go in my bedroom and take my book bag off from a hard day at school, and then there's a junkie sleeping in my bed. And then I look into the other bed, and there's a junkie sleeping in my sister's bed. You have to try to realize what kind of psyche, what kind of effect those things happen on the psyche of a child. And one thing about, because it is a form of child abuse, but the one thing about, subjecting these kids to these things is this child is going to grow up to be an adult. What kind of adult are you sending into this world? You know what I mean? Most people see that and they'll end up selling drugs to their mother or selling drugs to their father. It was just, and to this day, I don't mind a hard day's work. I just don't. I don't mind getting my hands dirty. I don't mind getting on my knees and scrubbing this or picking this up. And, I've been designing for 15 years, give or take. Yeah, 10 or 15 years. And, you're a designer, you're supposed to come in with the flashy this and tell people what to do. And you're in for your photo ops and you're, get me some tea with, I'm just not that guy. I'm never going to be that guy. No matter how much money I have or how much fame I acquire, I'm never going to be that guy because I like doing things for myself. I'm here to serve people. People aren't here to serve me. I can just as well get up and go get a cup of tea. I can just get up and pick this garbage up off the floor that made me uncomfortable because I'm a neat freak. You know what I mean? But we're all equal in this. Your social status or your money or your fame, and at the end of the day, it just really doesn't matter. What kind of person are you? Money comes and goes. Fame comes and goes. And now it's faster because of the social media and you on to the next thing immediately. Those things come and go, but what kind of person are you? I still have friends that I worked with that'll send me Christmas gifts that I haven't seen in years. Or they'll send an email, I'm proud of you. And, the reason I'm doing what I'm doing is because when we worked together and I was an intern, you took the time to da. So you pay it forward because when I was a kid, someone did that for me. My mentor in this building, in this business couldn't speak English well. But we have a dynamic and we communicate, and she saw how young and hungry I was. But in the beginning of my career and me figuring out what I wanted to do with my life, I was always intellectually curious. And people saw that in me. So they didn't open the door and let me in. They cracked the door and said, let me see what he's going to do. But I was hungry. I took an internship and I was there 10, 12 hours a day. I was there before the bosses got there. I'm hungry. I knew if I didn't work harder than the average person, I was going to end up in the project. So the fear of living in the projects again motivated me. I left the projects in June of '86. Had a horrible incident where dealers broke into the house, and I happened to answer the door, and I was the only one there. So what happened was my mother and her addiction had robbed a drug spot, and they were looking for her, and I was the only one home. So I opened the door. I don't know who these guys are. They throw me up against the wall, put a shotgun in my face, and said, where your mother at? The other one ransacked the house looking for her. She wasn't there. I don't know. Tell her we're looking for her. Now, right then, there was nobody home. They could have shot me, and that would have been the end of my story. But for some reason, I'm here for a reason. For some power other than myself, in that moment, after the fear left, after I locked the door and the fear left, I called my grandmother. Told her what happened. She was there in 10 minutes. And I remember taking the garbage bag of my clothes because I knew I'm not coming back no matter what. So I took everything I could fit inside a green garbage bag. And I remember it was June because I was in grammar school, and the last thing I took was my cap and gown because I had just had my cap and gown pressed because my graduation was the next day.
My mother had a stroke when I was 16 years old, and it was she wasn't even supposed to live a week, and she went to Rusk Rehabilitation Center in New York City, and she was there for a year and a half. She couldn't walk, she couldn't talk, we didn't even know who she was. It was just a tragedy, and visiting her almost daily, and being exposed to the people on one floor that were paralyzed from an accident, or the stroke center, or going around the halls in the wheelchairs with their heads and the pins in their heads so they can't move. And it just does something to you as a human being. And when my mother finally got out, and I took her to Paramus Park a lot because she liked to do that, and she says, "Everybody's looking at me." She learned to speak again. And I said, then look at them. I said, they're just not used to seeing somebody in a wheelchair. Her disability taught me about compassion. And I think if there's one thing that you need in life, it's compassion for other people. Because when you see the human being not able to walk and not able to do things for themselves, if you have a sensitive bone in your body, you develop compassion. I've developed that since I was a young kid. And whenever I see somebody, I always hold the door open for them, disabled or not. My son did that as a young boy. He was wondering, his little dad, "Why are you doing that?" I said, "Because you're always, helping somebody." He said, "Dad," I remember him saying one time, "She didn't say thank you." I said, "Well, not everybody's going to say thank you, okay? You're doing it because you're helping somebody." We're in Lowe's, and some elderly guy is unloading lumber into his truck. And I said, "Let's go over and help him." He said, "Dad, why?" I said, "Let's help him." At first he declined, and then we helped him, and he says, "Thank you so much." I said, those are the things that you do, and it makes you feel good inside. You could just drive away, and that guy will probably get in his car. But those are the good things. It puts out good karma, feelings. It helps you. And all those things help you become a little bit more sensitive to other people. And I think that's what we all need. I think that's an extremely important element in life that a lot of us don't touch upon. And I think we should. Discipline. And now we'll get into the bodybuilding. I saw my first magazine, Weeder, the guy on the beach with his girlfriend on the blanket, and the big guy saying, "I want to sit here," kicking sand on him, and he beat the crap out of him. And then he started taking the Weeder course, and he developed muscles, and he saw the same guy on the beach, and he was like, "Oh yeah? Well, look at me now." I guess we all want a physical. I was a short guy. I needed, when I saw that, I'm like, this is exactly what I want. I used to put pictures up on my wall of Tom Paris, Mike Metzer, Lou Ferrigno, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And my dad bought me my first weight set when I was 12 years old. It was from Sears. It was a little bench with a little metal rod that you stuck through the back, so it got you in incline position, and dumbbells filled with sand. That's how far back we go. And I said, this is what I want to do this. I want to do this. So the discipline through the bodybuilding and the exercise, having a really great physique when I was a teen. And it was my life, and it's still my life. And I still get excited to walk into my gym as I do the very first day I ever worked out. And I get my friends to come to my gym and work out, and try to get them, "Hey, let's do this." They stay 2-3 weeks, and they drop out. Not because I'm giving them a tough regimen. It's because it wasn't part of their life. They don't feel they need it. See, I work out almost every other day because it's been my life. This is part of just getting dressed and eating. This is just an activity, a daily activity for me. And I've entered bodybuilding shows. I did very well for myself. I've did it all naturally. I've never taken any steroids, anabolic enhancements, growth hormones, anything of that nature. And I did pretty well for myself. And I'm probably going to do a master's in the next year or so, which is a 50 years and over. And I'll tell you what, the discipline that I've learned from bodybuilding, I don't think I would be where I am today without that. I think it has helped create a person that's dedicated, that can withstand anything that comes in his way. It has helped me mentally, physically, in my business, in my social, in my personal life. I think it's a tremendous thing, exercise. You know, now everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. It kills me to see these kids that are my son's age that are enormous and that are, you know, taking the shortcut. You know, they're getting anabolics from God knows who. They're gonna be sick. They're gonna have early deaths. They're trying to cheat. You know, they're trying to get there the short way. I think exercise properly with nutrition and cardiovascular and proper eating, I think all that is important. And if you do that, you know, I think that's going to really help you in life. I just say it's really weird. You might say, how is exercise going to help me in my life? Well, it's just given me clarity. It's helped me in so many ways. I feel better about myself. I like the way I carry myself. I'm constantly respected, admired. People always say, wow, you're in really good shape. It makes me feel good. It really does.
I would say one of the biggest things is to treat people the way you would want to be treated. I treat people, whether at work or in social settings, the way I would want people to treat me. I try to be good to people. I try to pay it forward in a sense of, that's why when I talk about networking, I love to hook up people because it makes me feel happy that I'm helping people, you know. And I think, you know, for me, it's not about having a BMW and a Coach bag. And for me, it's just about being with family and friends and enjoying going to work every day and making relationships with people and just trying to do helpful things, you know, whether it's donate your time to an animal shelter or try to help somebody that's trying to get a job, like reformat their resume, you know, or recommend them for something. Encourage them to be something that maybe they can't see what, you know, the possibilities of what they could be.
Community college is great for someone that wants to get a degree, an associate's degree, and has parents that are going to push them, or they don't need to be pushed. But if you're going to a 4-year school and you're not pushing yourself already prior to that, you're probably going to fail out the first year. Because you have your own place, you don't have your parents, your roommates would rather you stay home and get messed up and play video games and watch TV and, you know, go on walks or whatever it may be that you do with your friends. Basically, everything is pulling you in this one direction, which is not school. And you have to pull yourself towards the school side of things and do your work. And all the while, it feels like your teachers are doing everything possible to make things harder. Because school is not easy. I've taken a couple classes where I excelled because I was really interested in the material, and if you look into a specific school program and you can seriously look at every single class in the program and say that you are going to be ecstatic to go to class, especially when the only available slot is at 8 o'clock in the morning and it's an hour bus ride away, which happens even when it's not that far away. It just won't work out if you don't have the drive to do the actual material itself.
As I'm walking out of the projects towards my grandmother's car, I said to myself, I said it out loud actually. I said, God, if you can keep a healthy breath in my lung, if you can keep me upright, I'll do the work, but I'm never coming back. And that was in June of '86, and that's a promise I kept to myself. And I never, ever, ever in my life again laid a head in the projects. Never. So even to this day, fear sometimes it was my catalyst. But as I got older, I lost the fear. You know, I had personal failures and I had professional failures, and I've learned from them all. You know, and I've learned more from my failures than I've from any victory I've ever had. But I don't look at it like the world is bottoming out. I'm losing all my money. Oh my God, what am I going to do? It's not a fear anymore. It's a lesson. So I take whether it's a personal failure or whether it's a professional failure that none of us are immune to. I said, you know what? Fear doesn't run me and motivate me anymore. Love does. So it's a transition. You know, I could lose all my money today. I would be upset for a minute, in a moment, but immediately I would think of, okay, how do we fix this? How do we get back? How da 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 da. You know, deep down, the experience of me growing up, how I grew up, is always going to be in me as some type of motivation, but it's not the main motivation anymore. You know, I don't fear that. I'm from that. I'm made of that. That made me who I am. But I don't fear it. And once you lose that fear, it's powerless against you. It has no power over you. And it's a really liberating thing. Very liberating.
Who was your favorite teacher in school, and why were they your favorite teacher?
Wow. 2 people totally changed my life in regards to my academics. The first one was my 2nd grade teacher, Miss Laluba. She was from Africa. And she was really, really strong-willed, really intelligent. And she took a particular interest in me because maybe she saw something, I don't know. But she took a particular interest in me because you got to realize across the street was the projects. She knows where I'm coming from. She knows, you know, when I get here in the morning, I'm hungry. So every now and then she'll give me an apple or orange or some kind of fruit or whatever because she knew my situation, you know, because a couple of times I was a behavioral problem and she called my mother in. So she kind of knew what was going on in the household, but she took a particular interest in me. And she would tell me things about George Washington Carver, which wasn't in our history books, Malcolm X, which wasn't in our history books, Crispus Attucks, which wasn't in our history books. You know, she really gave me the tools for self-value and self-worth. You know, that's why I hold teachers and educators in such a high regard. You know, because that one, if the child's not getting what they need home, the school, and this is part of the problem today, the school ends up being the babysitter. And when I got to school, I would act out sometimes and joke a lot. You know, I was a joker. Because there was so much depression and stuff home, I was trying to not be a troublemaker, but laugh to keep from crying. And sometimes I would interrupt people's work. But Miss Laluba wouldn't hesitate to take me into the bathroom with a pointer or a ruler and light me up. And she'd always say, Quentin, I expect much more from you. And her saying that was just, it put responsibility on my shoulders to behave myself. You know, And I knew how much she cared about me because one time I had caught pneumonia. And you got to remember, I'm in the 2nd grade. And I was out for a couple of weeks. And she came to the hospital a couple of times, twice a week. She came to see how I was doing the first time. I wasn't doing too well. They didn't know if I was going to make it. She came back, and then I saw her, and I just looked at her and started crying. Because she loved me. There was something about me that she saw that was special. And I was living in Patterson, and my hospital was 4 towns over in Saddlebrook. So she left work and went all the way out of her way to come see this child, this little troublemaker. But she heaped responsibility and pride in me that I wasn't getting from anywhere else. And I appreciate it and I embraced it. The second teacher was in high school. My art teacher, Mr. Murphy, John Murphy, he was a big, strapping Irishman, and he just took no crap. And again, I'm a young man, growing up, teenager, I'm running in the hallways or whatever. Murph didn't play that. You're here to learn. I'm here to teach you, and so on and so forth. And he was just a big, tough guy. That's the kind of father figure I needed, because he was a structured man, and he was a great artist. So one day, junior year, me and my best friend, Dwayne, and we were both talented kind of guys, and, we were running around the hall and sneaking in and out or whatever, and we did something in the class that day, and Murph flipped. He said, big 6'4" guy, "Carter, Smitty," and he never called me Q, "Smitty, in my office." And we knew the jig was up. So he got us in there. He had this little office about the size of a jail cell. And he was smoking cigarettes, which you're not supposed to do. He smoked his chain smoke all day and drink his Irish coffee because we could smell it from here. And he said, "Close the door. You guys screwing around and da-da-da-da, what are you going to do with your lives and da-da-da-da-da." Now, it was all a joke up until this afternoon. And he's giving us the business. I mean, he's cursing us out like a sailor. And we're just, because he never spoke to us like that. He spoke sternly, but never like that. And he said the one thing, and Dwayne and I will take this to our grave. This changed the trajectory of our lives. He said to us, "Don't you know you're black?" And we just, yeah. He's like, no, don't you realize, because now my ears are hot and I'm offended. And we're just looking like, did he just say that? And he said, "Don't you realize you guys have a talent? You're in tech. You're going to not only get an education, but you're going to get a trade. Why are you running in the hallways? Why are you screwing your opportunity up? And you can go to college next year, but you can't do it doing that." And I say you're black because you're going to get good grants. You're going to get the Pell Grants, the loans. If you want to go to college, you'll have it made in the shade. What are you doing with your opportunity? And it was that day I decided I was going to college. There was nothing other than death that was going to keep me from going to college. And it was that one conversation and that one phrase, "Don't you know you're black?" It just resonated. And the rest was, I'm done. This is what I'm doing. So he really set us on the track of a profession and taking this business seriously. And I'll never forget it for the rest of my life.
I think that part of the decisions you make in life are the experiences that you go through. I hated those calls. I said, I will never be like this. I will never, ever be anything like this. If my father slept on the right side of the bed, I want to sleep on the left side of the bed. If my father didn't spend time with me playing baseball, I want to play baseball with my kid. We want the things we don't have. And that can get you into trouble, because how many times have you sold something or got rid of something only to realize you wish you still had it. Even superficial things. We used to have this black gate in front of our house. It was this big black gate. It was rusting and it was across our patio. It made a lot of noise. Didn't look so nice. I missed that gate. We took that down for a piece of garbage PVC gate that's white and it's getting all dirty now. You wish you had it, you know. It's silly. It's going off track again. But what I'm saying is be careful what you wish for. But make sure that, you know, in life, so many things get thrown at you and you never know what's coming around the corner. You never do. And everybody's going to say live for today because you never know what's going to happen this afternoon or tonight. But the most important thing is make sure you're happy doing what you're doing. You could have a job where you're making $250,000 a year, but you may not be seeing your family every week because you're traveling to Denver or wherever. And you're not going to be at your kid's play, or you're not going to be at your kid's baseball game. And those are the things that are important because those are the things they're going to remember. So it's full circle. It's like the Cats in the Cradle, that song, you know. Finally, he wants time for his kid, but his kid doesn't want time with him because he never gave him the time. You'll begin to see a pattern of the things that really make you happy, that you know are good for you. And keep reminding yourself of that. Like before I go out on a sale, I think about the last time I sold a whole house of shades. And they had no idea what they wanted, but I showed them something and it just wowed them. And I got out of there with a great order. I remind myself of that each and every time just before I leave my truck to go into the house. So I guess what I'm saying is always look back at your accomplishments, because not only does it make you feel good about yourself, you were there, you've done it, you did it. Okay, take that as a lesson and apply it to everyday life. Apply it to the next time you meet somebody. Listen to them. Listen to their story. Don't always be involved with trying to tell them what you have to say. You know, you ever meet somebody and you tell them a story and you're not even beginning, and they're like, yeah, that happened to me. This is what happened. And you're like, oh, I was just telling you my story, but you know what? I'll let you talk, you know. And then after a while, you'll do it and you'll realize yourself doing it, and then you'll step back and say, no, you were telling me your story. Let me hear your story. It really feels good to listen, and that's hard too. You have to. It's something you need to learn how to do. Most people, but listen, be interested. You know, don't always say. Sit back and listen. You'll be surprised what you could learn. It's pretty cool, and I learned that. Remember names. Remember things about somebody, because they'll be very impressed next time you meet them again, and you'll remember something about them that you really didn't have to. And you know, you get older, you could become wiser, you could kind of regress and fall back into the old ways. As I'm getting older, I find myself getting even more particular about how I install, how I pre-drill before I screw in a screw so I don't crack their molding. I was never really concerned with that. But now I'm really, I want to leave, I want to come, I want to go, and I want any sign that I was there except something really nice on their window. I don't want any garbage. I'm like refining myself with each job as I'm getting older. And I don't know if that happens with everybody. I think that may happen only if you're really, truly, just like you with your work, with your job, with your interviews. You want each one to be better and better and better. And you realize things during these interviews that, I'm going to do that for my next one because I want to make it a little tighter or something. And that just shows somebody that really enjoys their craft. And I think that's what we all try to strive for. Almost like superhero, okay? Try to be a superhero in everyday life. Try to be the best you can. Try to be the most helpful person you can. Help other people. Someone's pulled over, stop. Take 2 seconds. Help them out. If it's something you think you can help them, even if it's asking them if they have a phone, if they need help, if they have help, take a moment and stop being so, self-centered and, me, and give back. Some of the most rewarding times of my life, my wife got me involved and my son at the food pantry in town at St. Mary's in Pompton Lakes. We were there since Jack was 2 years old. We went a couple times a week and we organized food, and then once a month we got food together for people that didn't have the money or the means, and we put together bags for them, and Jack and I helped them out into their cars and they drove away. Well, this continued until I guess people spoke up and said they weren't getting really what they wanted, and they switched the whole format. They didn't need volunteers anymore, and they wanted people to come in and shop, which made sense. They kind of got what they wanted and they needed. I volunteered my time at New Jersey Center for the Blind, and I took videos and pictures of their events, whether it be drumming sessions or different meetings and fun events, parties. My wife volunteered at Restore in Wayne, to help people that don't have money, get furniture and different household needs. Volunteer is huge. Take the time and give back. If we all give a little back, don't worry about what you're going to get. You have the ability, you have a little time. You'll be surprised how great you feel when you volunteer your time. Yeah, I sound like a commercial. But until you really do it, I know personally, I've done it for years. It makes your heart feel good. It makes you feel good. So if you do have some free time, there's volunteer opportunities all over the place. Just the other day, I was early for an appointment for an estimate, and I pulled over on the side of the road. I was maybe 25 minutes early. And obviously I check my email. Make sure I'm all up to date there. And I turn my head, and I see this guy, older man, maybe in his 80s, trying to pull out, I guess, roots from an old tree in his front yard. And he was struggling. He had a piece of wood, and he's trying to, angle it a certain way for it to come out. And I could see the root moving up and down, up and down, up and down. I didn't even think. I just got out of my truck. I said, "Hey, man, what's going on?" He says, "Who are you?" I said, "My name is Andy." I said, "I've got an estimate down the street. I pulled over. I'm a little early. I saw what you're doing here. It looks like you could use some help." He's like, No, you're in your your work clothes. I don't need that. I don't want you to get dirty." I said, "I love getting my hands dirty. I love landscaping when I don't work. Let me see what I can help you with." I gave a couple good pulls, and I got that root snapped right off. He says, "Wow, one shot." I said, "I couldn't stand watching you do that. I didn't want you to hurt yourself." He said, "I used to do this when I was a young kid." He says, "I'm not strong anymore." He was too proud to ask for help. I took a saw, I cut it down real low. He said he didn't want it up because his lawnmower was going to cut it. I spent a few minutes with him. I cut it. I wiped off my dirt. And he says, "Thank you so much." And I said, "My pleasure, man." And I went on my estimate, and an hour later or more, I'm driving back, and he's still with a little saw trying to get the very bit of it. So I'm like, wow, this guy's pretty cool. He just wants to make it perfect. So he was probably working on it the whole time just to get it a little lower. But that's what I'm talking about. You see it in everyday life, whether it's a woman coming out of a store with some bags that are heavy, help them. It'll make you feel good. I don't know. That's some advice that I think is just something you're gonna have for the rest of your life. It's good stuff.
But the thing is, when you're creating, it's like magic. It's like heavenly. Mm-hmm. When you're in the midst of doing it, like you're doing it to get to a goal or get it done. But sometimes I'm doing something, or I'm cutting this fabric, and I'm just smiling to myself like, I always think back to that hungry kid in building 5, 8G. Just look back at that kid. Like, I'm glad you didn't quit. Or I'm glad you are who you are, because we wouldn't be doing this if you weren't. You know, this, all that stuff has brought me to this moment.